they are starting to finally wake up, man. I think that was a powerful thing that Trump did, is he gave everybody a voice, right? I mean, he was the first one really to call out the media publicly.
I argue that Barron understands the world better than 99% of grown-ass men. I think he could run the country at some point.
Wow.
He's on track.
Yeah. Tell me about Barron Trump. You met Barron Trump,
Yeah,
right?
man.
Tell me about
I was
that.
just messaging him the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look, Junior.
Because he's 18, right?
He's 18
He's
now.
18 years
Yeah.
old. From what I hear, he's a very mature 18.
It's unbelievable. I think he could run the country at some point.
Wow.
He's on track.
Yeah.
He is dialed in. He understands it from the media. He understands the part that he plays in it. He understands what his father's going through. He understands geopolitics. Mm-hmm. I argue that Barron understands the world better than 99% of grown-ass men. It's no joke. I actually had an opportunity to make him his first custom suits recently.
Oh, no way.
I flew my tailor in. I made suits for him and Bo, his best friend.
Yeah.
And we're walking through Mar-a-Lago after doing the suits.
Yeah.
And we're talking about like the VP and geopolitics and BRICS and Putin and sanctions. And I look up and Secret Service on my right, about 10 yards, Secret Service on my left, and Secret Service behind me. And we're walking through one of the most beautiful places in the world, Mar-a-Lago, on the grounds. Yeah. And they're just strapped. And I'm like, bruh. It's a surreal thing. It's surreal. And he's just talking about, well, Putin this and, North Korea and what do you think's going to happen with, and I was really enjoying the conversation, but there was a moment for me where I just look left, look right, and kind of look back behind me. And I was like, this is sick.
It is sick. I mean, I guess at some point as a kid, you grow up that way. You get used to it, right? It just kind of disappears. I'm sure it's disappeared for him now. It's like that's just life. I mean, because for the most part, since he's been 10 years old, 9 years old, he's been in politics.
Right. Yeah. He's built for it.
Yeah.
He really is. He understands it. He looks the part. He's got it upstairs. Mm-hmm. Incredibly intelligent, dialed in. Told me, he's like, my dad's never drank. I'm never going to drink. That makes a big difference.
That's huge, yeah.
It's a big difference. Yeah. And he's around it. He knows the right people. We had this whole long conversation one night after an event. We took this photo, and it blew up on social media.
That's one on your page, right?
I got 43 million views in 24 hours.
Wow.
And it was that night. We sat under this canopy again, Secret Service, right, left, back. Yeah. Just not close enough to hear what you're saying, but close enough to they're there, right? Yeah. Strap. And he's sitting there telling me all the options that he thought were possible for the vice president and why he chose them based off the academies they went to, their war experience, like he was talking about generals, businessmen, politicians.
This was before he announced?
This was before Trump announced. Mm-hmm. And he was just pacing back and forth. Well, it could be this guy. It could be this guy. He didn't know, and he was in this deep thought. And like we're going back and forth. Colby Covington, the UFC fighter, was sitting there, and his friend Bo. Yeah. And it was just long, elaborate conversation after he had like waved bye to everybody. Yeah. Went to his room, texted us like, meet me under the canopy. Yeah. And Secret Service was there and we were just hanging out. And he was in this deep, deep thought about it. But I was so impressed with how he knew the backgrounds of every possible person that it could be. Yeah. And how he had an opinion based off their resume and what school they went to. He's a very special young man. Yeah. He's a perfect storm. Yeah. In that way. And he's a good guy. I call him a lot of derogatory names. Yeah. The first phone call that I ever had with him, it was the night before his 17th birthday. Yeah. And I just came right out with, hey, very derogatory, cancelable word. Yeah. And I've been calling him that ever since. Like, we have a group chat on Instagram. Yeah. It's called Mr. Hollywood and the Brokeback Mountain Crew. And like, it's just making fun of each other the whole time. Yeah. He's just, he's the perfect mix of the intelligence it takes and the proper. Yeah. But if you set him down with a CEO with a blue collar background, he'd be able to drink a beer with him. And I think that's a very, very.
Well, that's what his dad has, right? That's
special
the quality
things.
His dad has.
Yeah, because you have to be able to talk to people and be a person. Yeah. Well, I think the problem between men and women is completely the fault of men. How can you expect for a woman to follow you when you're not even strong enough to be that kind of man that she'd want to follow? I think a lot of these girls that are doing OnlyFans are only doing OnlyFans simply as a result of lack of men that are out there. I think that most of these girls, and trust me, I know from direct contact with these girls that they don't want that life, man. They just don't have another option. What are they going to do? Go work at Starbucks or make $500K a month because they've amassed 8 million followers on Instagram because, been gifted by God or enhanced it otherwise. It's not a good situation. But I can tell you from knowing these girls personally that it's not their ideal. And until men start taking responsibility for being the leader in the relationship, then these girls are just going to go out and take these simps' money. And you know what? I can't even blame them. I really can't. Make that bad, girl. A lot of people think that I talk shit about OnlyFans girls. No, I actually feel bad for them. I actually feel like they've been put in this situation. I think that when we went off the gold standard, it became harder and harder for one man to go bust his all week so he could support a family. Now your average working man, he can't even get a date because he can't even support one kid or one wife. And so these girls are left out here in the market trying to find this guy. They're comparing it to social media. So guys like, let's say me and Vic, and these guys will sleep with these girls, have no intention of wifing them up or getting them pregnant or anything. And then they go back out into the marketplace and they're like, okay, am I going to get a job? Or am I going to go out here and do the easiest possible thing, which is put a bikini on in the sun, which is something they want to do anyway, and then get paid more than most business owners? I mean, man,
yeah, it's
a tough situation. Yeah. I'm not judging them. I actually feel bad for them more than anything, because I don't think they're able to get the most natural thing that they probably want in life, which is probably to be a mother and to be a wife. And they don't even have that option, and they're stunningly beautiful and make a bunch of money, but it doesn't help them. And so for that reason, I think it's really sad when it comes to the OnlyFans girls. I'm not judging them. I have a heart for them because I don't see where they even have really a whole lot more options. In regards to the men, it's the same thing. They're buying the OnlyFans because they can't get a woman, or there's some tradcon dude that's lying through his damn teeth, waiting until his wife goes to the grocery store so he can do you know what and then judge me on the internet for telling the truth. And that guy is simply just a piece of shit and a liar. So that's what I think about it.
Yeah, look, I think that unfortunately, it's pretty empty when you have these girls that are on OnlyFans and they're doing all this stuff. Because at the end of the day, I do believe that not all, but I think most women want to at some point get married. They want to have a family, and at that point, when you do that, like there was a story that came out about a famous star that now is petitioning internet and Google to remove all the videos of her, pictures of her that have been online, because now she's getting married and she wants to raise a family and all that stuff, right?
I would support
that. I would support that too.
I'd vote for that, hands down. I'd vote for that.
Yeah, I'd support that too. But my point is that now that's very hard to do. Like everything that we do on social media these days,
AI can do it
instantly, right?
Right.
So it's like you got to really think. If you're a girl, man, you got to really think. You got to say, okay, hold on, what am I going to do in 10 years from now when I'm putting all this stuff out on the internet? What's going to be the repercussions of all this videos and photos and all this stuff? So I always caution people to be very careful about that. But I do agree with you that I think that the vast majority of women have a very, very difficult time now finding a guy, because the amount of men out there that are able to support, right? Change it from the gold standard, change it from 1920s and 30s when men would go to work and the women would stay at home,
and they could afford to give them that life.
Well, they could afford to do it, right? The inflation wasn't that high. They could afford to do it, but also they valued it. They valued that role in the women. But at some point it switched. Society all of a sudden changed it and said, hey, what the man does is more important than what the women does. And so then to the women's report, they were like, hey, well, hold on, I don't want to be undervalued. So then you had this whole women going out in the workforce.
Right, but I think that's the problem with feminism in the first place, is that I've said this on podcasts and it went very viral. I think being a mother is probably one of the most important jobs in the world.
Oh, it's the most important.
Yeah, and one of the hardest.
Yeah.
Imagine lifting a 20-pound. No, I don't want none of that smoke.
I can't do it.
Hell no. No, bro. I got no interest in that.
No, that's why.
But that's the point I'm making, is that feminism said that because he's making all the money and he's the leader of the household, that he's more important than you. I don't think that's true.
No, it's not true.
I think her job in making that home, supporting him, being there for him, raising his children correctly, because now you're getting into legacy if she's raising kids. And then if she does that without a father, the numbers for fatherless households when it comes to incarceration, school shootings, like all of the things that you would not want an average citizen, is fatherless homes.
It's completely fine. No, I'll tell you, honestly,
I might wife up 10 of them, dude.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you.
At least save 10 of them, bro. People do it with cats. I'll do it with OnlyFans girls.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. No, it's funny. Like the other day, that's why I think my wife's like a superhero, right? And moms out there in general, right? Yeah. Because the other day, you and I deal with all this stuff at work, right? And we have to deal with employees, and we have to deal with customers, and we have to deal with vendors, and we have to deal with people not paying you or employees quitting and not showing up and all that, right? And you have to have a tremendous amount of patience for it as a businessman. It's a really a skill, right? It's a talent.
It's a muscle.
It's a muscle that you have to always use, right? So I go from that world, right? You and I, this is what we're doing all day long. We're fighting a battle, right? And then I go home.
Multiple
battles, right?
Yeah, you're juggling
battles.
Yeah.
All this shit. On the way home, you're yelling at this person and all this type of shit, right? Then I go home, okay? And Rio, my 2-year-old, who's he's like a Superman, right? Like the guy, all he plays with is trucks and planes and all this stuff, right? He's like a guy's guy. Like if he was, 19 years old, we'd be having a beer, okay? So he's sitting there, he's walking up the stairs, and he's like, no, I want to go this way. And I'm like, Rio, no, we got to go this way. And he goes into this whole thing, no, we're going this way, goddammit. And he looks at me like, hey, we're going this way, goddammit. Now, all of a sudden, and it's the weirdest thing, and I thought about my wife when this happened. She was downstairs, and I thought, hold on. All my patience, Justin, went through the window. Like, it was.
You know what I thought when you said that?
Yeah.
It's about time to get your first whooping.
Right, exactly.
That's literally what I thought when he said that.
But I was just like, okay, he wants to go down this way. Now, I'm not going to suppress him. He wants to go down this hallway and explore. Right. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. But my patience went out the window. So I just looked at him like, okay, dude. And then I literally yelled for my wife, and she came upstairs. I'm like, hey, can you just handle this really quick? And the whole point is what I realized for myself, which was really interesting, was I'm like, wow, I can have a lot of patience with people at work and things that we got to do, right? We don't usually blow our top at work for whatever reason. It's like ingrained from us from day one as an entrepreneur.
I can't think of the last time I raised my voice at work.
Exactly, yeah. Can't remember, because it's like, okay, patience, right? You got to think with that discipline, right? Like a soldier. Discipline went out the window when I went home, right? Because I have no patience with my kids sometimes. And my wife's like, you just have to have patience. And I'm like, but that's why, to your point, women are way better at it than men. Right. Just from a genetic standpoint, like we just don't have it, man.
I don't think it's fair to ask women to go out into the market and compete and become the man that they actually want to marry. And you see girls doing this.
I hate on it, but I understand it.
I have a heart for them. Like, what else are you gonna do?
Look, I get it. What are your options?
She's looking around. She's like, what are my options? Let's say it's not OnlyFans. Let's say it's normal business.
Yeah.
And now her identity gets caught up in making money.
Yeah.
And then, let's say she comes to the dinner table with me and she wants to brag about how much money she makes.
Yeah.
I got a doctor. She's like, I'm a doctor. And I'm like, that's cute.
Yeah.
But the problem that she's really facing is every time she stacks another $100,000 a year on her salary, she might as well be 6'2". It's like in some weird way it disqualifies her. Not even really because I think men wouldn't marry her. I think that women naturally want to feel a bit of a power dynamic. And studies show that when a woman is the breadwinner, she calls for divorce at a very high percentage. Very high percentage.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, look at it from
it's against her nature.
It's against her nature, but I was on an interview when I was in Colombia, because I have an office in Medellin, Colombia.
Yeah, I love Medellin.
It's amazing. Yeah. I love Medellin. I love the people there and the whole thing. And I was there. I was in an interview. This lady came into my house, and we did an interview with my wife and myself. And we were talking about this particular subject because she's like, look, I want to find a guy that I can, raise a family with and build a future with, right? And so what we were talking about was, and I wanted to ask you this, is depending on the level of the guy, right? There's some guys, and there's nothing wrong with it, but this is the point I want to preface. There are some guys that earn a certain amount of money that are like, hey, I actually wouldn't mind if my spouse worked and had a career and brought bread to the table. There's that category.
Well, you're right here at partner level,
right? And then you go kind of a step or two above that, you go into that 2%, 1% range, where most of those guys are not looking for that. And so to my point to the girl was, hey, if you're a girl out there and you want to meet a guy, you have to be very clear about what level guy you want. Because that guy that's in the 1% range or half of 1% range, most of the time, not all the time, and it doesn't matter either way you go, right? If you say I want a career woman or not. But most of those guys, wouldn't you agree, in that range, don't want that.
I argue that nobody in the entire scale cares.
Wow.
So the working guy, let's say he's working on his tools all day. When he meets the woman at Hooters or at the bank or whatever, he's looking at beauty first does not care what she does. I don't think at any level the man cares. Now, at that level, it might be helpful, but still probably not ideal to what he wants and even she wants. And where I think that it really stacks itself in the favor of that 1% guy is that as young men, you start off with zero value. Let's say you're 20. Let's start a man and a woman. Same age, 20. The man has zero value. The world does not care about anything to do with you until you can add value. You have zero value.
Yeah, no given.
Right. Nobody cares about you. Now, a woman has all of most of her value in her beauty. Wars are fought over it. I would say every man on that scale that you just said does not care about her money. Like, I could care less about what a woman does for her job. Unless me and that woman could be an ally.
Yeah, but you're in a
But I've never cared.
Yeah,
and I argue that most men don't.
The construction worker has to now because of inflation.
I think he should care. I think he cares more maybe that she doesn't have a lot of debt or baggage or extra kids. Extra kids. Yeah. I think he might look at overhead. But as far as income itself, I think that he'll care more about her beauty. And if they get along, and he'll probably do his best to work some extra hours and try to provide a life for her. I think he'll try. Yeah. I don't think you're going to find a man that runs into a beautiful woman, especially as hard as it is to get a woman for the average guy. Yeah. And he's going to be like, nah, she's got a job. I'm not doing that. Get the f- out of here. No, he ain't doing that. So for that reason, I don't think it matters as much. And where I feel bad for the career woman is the better she does, the more she grows a phantom penis. And it's like she becomes this boss attitude to no fault of her own. It's almost systemic. I see you smiling. Yeah. But she did what she had to do. Yeah. And whether she did that with a pantsuit or a thong, who am I to judge you?
Right, exactly.
I'm not Jesus Christ. Yeah. I actually have a heart for you. Yeah. And I'll tell you who I have a heart for more than anyone. It's the young teenage girl who believes that her value is attached to followers and that to get followers, you must show skin. Yeah. That is one thing that if I could just get every teenage girl in the world in front of me, I would just tell them that it's not true. It's not true. In fact, some of the women that I find most attractive online are the ones that are very clearly built well, very clearly in the gym. Yeah. That do look damn good in a pantsuit, right? Or something where I cannot find their dude. On average, when I have these Instagram girls DM me, I can find their nipples. Yeah. Literally know what their areola and their nipple looks like within the first couple swipes down her page. Yeah, it will be available.
Yeah, of course.
And that's crazy. Yeah, it should not be the case.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. But then social media will ban you if you have a cigar in the picture, which I find hilarious. I think was really interesting this time around versus the last time. And I had Tucker Carlson at my last conference, right? Yeah. And we were talking backstage about what's happening in the election, and that was in June, right? Yeah, it was in June. The interesting thing, Justin, is this year, for example, which I think is so climatic over what happened the last election. Just to give you an example, this information like blew my mind. So the early voting in Georgia, had a record previously, supposedly when Sleepy Joe ran, which was 337,000 early votes in the first 2 weeks. Do you know what the early voting numbers were this year? 1 million. There were 1 million people that voted in the first 2 weeks of the election. So everyone's now talking about the fact that they think it's going to be, or 100 million votes that he's going to hit. So I think not only is he going to win the electoral votes, which I think he's going to win Georgia, he's got to win North Carolina, he's got to win Pennsylvania, and I think he's going to win the popular vote. Right. That's my call. That's my prediction.
Well, look, and I love that. And I think in actuality, if it's run fair, that's true. I think the biggest question is he going to get a fair shake at it? That's my only fear.
I mean, we
should
no
all
doubt pray for it.
I believe in what they would call the quiet majority. Yeah. I had to question myself the other day. I actually asked to get my little sister works for me in one of my offices, and I was in Louisiana voting early. Yeah. And I said, let me see your phone. Yeah. Because I know that I'm biased towards Trump. Right. And I'm always going to do everything I can to at least fight against my bias. If I'm studying something or if I have an opinion, I try to watch counter arguments as much as possible. Yeah. I just watched Peterson and Dawkins discuss religion, atheism. Yeah. And so I'm always doing that, right? And it was just
no atheism in the foxhole.
That's right. Pray for everything. I know that my phone and my feed is probably biased towards Trump, but I felt like, and so I got on her phone.
Tremendous amount of support. Yeah.
And 18-year-old little girl. It's a lot different. So there wasn't a whole lot of political.
Who's she voting for?
Man, look, if she wants
Come on, man.
I can't even say.
I
think I know what she's going to do. I'm going to do. I'm going to love her anyway. Doesn't matter. I just want her to vote.
We need to vote.
I just want her to vote.
Yeah.
I made a post about that yesterday. I flew home to make sure I could vote. Yeah, I didn't want to risk it. So I flew to New Orleans and drove to Denham Springs and voted.
You couldn't vote in Florida?
I did.
But you registered there.
I'm registered there. I know. I just sold one of the house I would live in Louisiana, and I just didn't want to risk it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna go down there. I did see my properties anyway that I have there, so I just flew down.
All right, cool. I think it's gonna be a landslide, and I think the interesting thing too that's happening with a lot of the younger people is they are starting to finally wake up, man. And I think that was a powerful thing that Trump did is he gave everybody a voice, right? I mean, he was the first one really to call out the media publicly that there was fake news and that it was all biased towards the machine and what the machine wants to do. So I'm excited about it. I think that I'm going to be ecstatic when I hear that he wins.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to be, I think, a liberation for the country. I think we need to start winning again. And I don't think the last 4 years have just been a nightmare. A nightmare for everyone. You know, even people that don't know it's been a nightmare. It's been business owners like us. It's been a nightmare, right?
It's been hard.
It's been very, very hard.
The best year I ever had was 22. And since then, it's kind of been a decline.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. I saw a clip, and it really makes sense to me. And I'll just say this about Trump and back up what the guy said is that, you know, for all the people that are worried about Trump, think that he's too much, he's too brash, consider this. You're sending him into a dog fight. It is a mess.
Oh, it's a hyena fight.
Yeah. So you had better hire a dog to do the job.
Yeah,
you know?
true. Yeah.
Or you think he's brash, you think he's arrogant. Well, one thing I'll tell you is this. You have to be brash and arrogant to get things done. And I argue that if he is arrogant, have you considered that he just might be too arrogant for us to fail on his watch?
Yeah.
That I trust.
Oh, I'll back that up.
That I trust.
Yeah.
And for that reason,
yeah,
you have to remember, just like the guy said, you are hiring this man to do a job.
Yeah.
If you're going to hire a fighter to go in there and bleed, you goddamn better hire a fighter.
Exactly.
And that's why I think even if you're liberal, you put Trump in. We wouldn't be in the wars that we're in if Trump was in office. You know why? Because they don't want the smoke.
No.
And he's going to remind the world that we have the biggest, most talented superpower militarily that ever was and ever will be.
Yeah.
Because when we went off the gold standard, we did do one thing right. We built the out of the military with that inflated money.
Yeah, we did.
And we are 10 times the size of everybody else.
Yeah.
Put bricks together, we will whoop their ass.
Yeah.
Trump knows it. The rest of the world knows it that is in power.
Yeah.
And it's upon us to put a dog in the White House.
Yeah.
That way, they know who's going to be at the top.
Yeah.
Because America is still the GOAT by a landslide.
Oh, for sure.
And Trump will keep it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why.
I agree.
Man, he's very special.
Let's talk about that real quick, too. So as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, right, I think one of the biggest qualities that I think that I had gotten from my dad, so my dad grew up middle class. We didn't have a lot of money. He was a small business owner.
You had a dad?
I had a dad, yeah.
Gee.
I was lucky. And, you know, so growing up middle class and my dad was a handyman and a businessman. And he, you know, we grew up pouring concrete and any time that, because we own this 25 unit motel in Tallahassee, Florida called Ponce de Leon Motel. And that's where I grew up after we left England. And, you know, anytime that plumbing wasn't working or the AC needed Freon or we needed to put tar on the roof, we were up there. And that's how I spent from 10 years old to about 18, which was hanging drywall. And I mean, it was physical labor every single day. Like there were no summers off. It was weekends, so it was like we were doing all this stuff, right? You know, breaking concrete floors and all this stuff. And nobody thinks that today when they look at me. They think, oh, this guy grew up with Ivy League schools or whatever. Yeah. But that's how I grew up. But the thing that I really got from that upbringing was being able to talk to the construction worker, to the valet guy, waiter, to the CEO, to the hedge fund guy, to whoever, you know, politician, whoever it may be. How common do you see that ability or inability in today's group of people, right? Like I don't see it that much.
Well, that's because you don't see communication at all.
Right.
Because it's done behind the screen.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a superpower not only to be able to communicate, have the comfort to communicate. I also think it's very important to understand that you have to be able to speak their language. You don't talk to a hedge fund manager the way you talk to a construction guy.
No, you don't.
You don't talk to a banker the way you might talk to a valet.
But I bet you give the valet guy the same importance as you do a hedge fund manager.
1,000%.
Exactly, right. And I think that's the part that's missing.
That's about energy and care.
Yeah.
But speaking their language, not trying to speak above them.
Right.
use big words. You're not trying to impress them. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's very important to give them that full energy, but speak to them where they are. Yeah. And you should adapt to those things, not because you're trying to be this sneaky chameleon, because you genuinely care about connecting with them. Yeah. And so you take the responsibility of being the one to change and adapt, whether that's upshifting or downshifting, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. I mean, I'm sure you pull up. I know you like cars like me, so you pull up in your Lambo. I'm sure you're not just like, hey, here's the keys to my car, and don't spend time talking to the valet. I think it's a really important point. I talk to them. I give them my name.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
They take my name. Usually they'll look me up on Instagram or blah, blah, blah. And I talk to them and hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm in school. I'm doing this. I'm doing great, man. You know, I usually offer them a job, but you know, I'm just like talking to these people. You know what I'm saying? These people, talking to everyone as opposed to thinking that you're so important that you can't talk to everybody else is such a disadvantage today that a lot of people do. Like, you know, when you go in to an office and you're trying to sell a customer, if you can't go in and create a rapport with the receptionist and get them to like you and you think you're coming in, you're so important, you're always going to lose. Always going to lose, right? What's the saying Jerry Maguire had, I think, in the movies? Like, you can't sell everyone if you can't sell anyone.
And also, I think that if you're rude to the valet or a waiter or the receptionist, you have to hold that on your heart.
Oh, yeah.
So how can let's say when I came here to meet you today, I would have been rude to my lovely, amazing tour guide, because she showed me the whole place. It's incredible. Yeah. I wouldn't have felt as good seeing you if I'd have been rude to her.
Right.
And so I think people misunderstand karma in a lot of ways. Yeah. When good things happen to me, I'm not surprised because I know what kind of seeds I've planted in the world. Mm-hmm. When you're rude or ugly or don't treat people well, or you do bad business deals, subconsciously I believe that you look for the thing that is going to balance you out with the universe.
Oh, absolutely.
And you'll look for it until you find it because you know you have it coming to you. Yeah. And so in that way, I think karma works.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Real. And what happens when you've been doing good things for people and being kind to people and doing the right thing, not only are you not surprised, you're able to accept the blessing because you know you have it coming to you.
Yeah.
And I think a person that has been doing bad things, if somebody did try to do something nice for them, they would push it away because they don't feel like they deserve it.
It's true.
And I think that handicaps people very badly, and they don't understand why.
It's true. I was watching, this is a funny story. I was watching the Lakers, right? Yeah. My favorite scene, he's going through hell, beaten up, kicked in the nuts, destroyed, right? Year after year after year after year. And finally, he gets a break. And he's like, he looks at the camera and goes, it's my time. And then when I saw that, I was like, that's so true. That, to your point, that's karma at work, right? At some point, you keep sowing seeds, putting in the work, putting in the effort, treating people nice, doing all the right things, being great where you can be great, adding value where you can add value. And then all of a sudden, it just turns. It just,
I'll tell you exactly how I look at that. I've said this on one podcast before. I never said it again, but I'll say it now. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Work. No results, but I'm a little better.
Yeah.
Work. Boom.
Yeah.
I just got paid.
Yeah.
And it looks like overnight
That's
success.
What it looks like. Yeah.
It looks like you killed it.
But that was 6 years.
Or 10.
Sometimes.
Or 12.
Or 10,
Yeah. And it's crazy how things can change so fast. I tell people all the time, it's like, man, you could change your whole life in 18 months.
How did you feel when you made your first $1 million? Like, did it change anything for you? Or?
I'll never forget the first time there was $1 million in one of my bank accounts.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was coming.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
I got paid and for one of my projects. It was like a wire that had to go through and had a hold on it or something like that. But it was a pretty decent pay. It was a few $100,000.
Yeah.
And I wasn't looking at my bank account really like every day thinking, oh, $1 million is going to be in there. And I got a notification. I looked at my phone, and the first time I saw 7 figures in my bank account, the first thing I did was screenshot it, as any American should do. And I sent it to my dad.
Yeah.
I sent it to my dad. I'm like, check this out.
Yeah.
Because it was actually a really big step for me. I think that your mind changes a little bit when you see $1 million in the bank the first time.
Did you feel richer?
No. I think it scared me.
Yeah.
And I think that happens to a lot of people. If you're doing it right, I think it scares you because you realize that $1 million is not really a lot of money. I think more than anything, it kind of pushed me to keep it as a standard.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, keeping $1 million in your bank account is probably not a financially good move.
No, it makes no sense.
So it makes no sense. But what does that force you to do? Start building that worth.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if I'm not going to have $1 million cash, I have to be more sophisticated about this, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just going to sit in the bank and get diluted by inflation.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have to get it in vehicles that'll make me wealthy one day. That's what I always talk about. Like, there's a huge difference between a rich guy and a wealthy guy. A rich guy is making money now. A wealthy guy, his wealth cannot be destructed. Because he's put it in assets. When they say the rich get richer, that's not the rich guy making a bunch of money getting richer. Because his money is actually worth less because of inflation.
Right.
The rich get richer because of inflation. They own assets that as they inflate, it reduces the amount of cost for their interest, and then the asset itself grows in value with the same basis and the same debt service. So when they say the rich get richer, what they really mean to say is the people with assets get wealthy. And there's a huge difference between wealth and being rich.
Oh, huge difference. Well, it's asset allocation, right?
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. And so I think that moment for me with the $1 million in the bank account was a moment where I was like, okay, this is rich maybe, but I got to do something with it. And I already owned real estate. I knew what I was going to do with the money. But I think it made me look at it. Do you ever know something, but then you read it for the third, fourth, or fifth time, and all of a sudden it
all the time.
That moment for me, I already knew I already had money in assets. I already been investing in the stock market, and I had properties and all these other things. When that $1 million hit that bank account, it changed what I thought about wealth for some reason. It was like, this can't sit here. And I think that was a very healthy response for me. That was my response. And it was just one of those moments where I already knew it, but it really drove it home for me. Because I knew I needed to move that money. I think for me, I felt more broke. Yeah, I get that.
I really did.
You realize it can't go that far.
What can you do with it? It was like a moment of like, wow, that's really cool. And then it was like, okay, now I'm broke. I'm still broke.
But you know what?
Right?
We should talk about this because I think a lot of people, when they see guys that do podcasts and TV shows or sell courses or make money online, I think they believe that we think that money is what makes you happy. I don't feel that way at all.
No, I don't either.
I genuinely, I swear to God with all my heart, this has become my hobby, the thing I love to do, the thing I get excited about. Man, if I didn't have to drive back to Miami today, I'd stay up with you all night like a girl slumber party talking about how to make more money. And I would not be bored not 1 second of that time. I genuinely enjoy it. And so the thought of playing fantasy football, it's not because I'm better than you. I will not enjoy it. That's what it really is. When I sat next to a guy on the plane yesterday, and when I tell you, he was sitting there watching the Yankees play with his phone. It was some kind of fantasy thing. Like fist pumping, and when a guy hit a single, and I could see it because he's literally sitting right next to me. And I'm like, I'm not judging you. I just could never do it. Because I just love business so much that I could never enjoy that. Like, it would be like torturing me. I'm not better than you.
No. Like, it's interest. It's just interest.
It's interest.
It's interest.
And another thing too, it's money doesn't really drive me. Freedom drives me. If my kids want something, I'm like, get two. That makes me happy. Like flying family members in. Being able to take them places. You know, money's used as a tool. But money is not my God. You know, freedom is so much more important to me. And money is used as a tool for freedom, sure. But I love the game. Most of what brings me happiness that is revolving around money has nothing to do with me, but watching another person smile.
No, I agree with that. Look, I think, you have a question, right? But I definitely want to say this. I definitely want to say this, that I think the biggest problem today with a lot of the younger guys out there that are trying to make it, and I say this to them all the time, and it just doesn't land. And what I always tell them is, like, you guys need to stop chasing money. You got to chase value. You got to chase value in the things you're creating, and you got to build value in yourself. And if you do that consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month, the money will come. And you'll have to throw it away. You'll have so much of it. And when I started Blackstone, I started this company in my kitchen, man, in 2012. And I wasn't about, I want to make $100,000 a year. It was literally, how do I create the biggest valuable asset in the medical sleep testing space that I possibly could create that blows everybody away by leaps and bounds? And that was the focus. It was never, I wanted to make a bunch of money. I wanted to have a plane. I wanted to make it wasn't. You
were excited. I say this about Steele. Because neither one of us as little boys, whether it was sleep studies or Steele, said we wanted to grow up and do that.
No.
But you were excited about your ability to add value and create.
Yeah, absolutely.
The creation part.
Yeah.
I say openly all the time, I like metal buildings. That doesn't keep me up at night.
Yeah.
But creating systems and thinking, what if we do it this way? What if I tinker on this cog this way or this system this way? Will we close more?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we do it this way, we could do it faster for the customer. We get the roof on faster, which means he can get the framers in, the electricians in. They can start doing what they need to do, and they'll love us for that.
Yeah, you're enhancing it.
Right, and so you get excited about working with the product.
Yep.
And creating, and the money comes. And what you know what I really like about what you said, because I really believe this to be true. People are like all the time, what would you do if you're in your 20s? The first thing I would do is recognize that you don't have time to wait, because that opportunity that's going to come to you or be in front of you, you have better had handled all these areas of your life before that opportunity comes, because it will pass you by. And you'll never know it because you actually weren't ready for it. And the reason I like what you said is that when you get to that point, you're no longer chasing money. You're attracting it like gravity.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that with people. I think you can do it with talent.
Oh, absolutely.
You create a big enough light and become a big enough presence, then you will attract people that even come in your orbit because you have a gravitational pull.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look what's happening to both of us right in our careers and what's happening, right?
It's a gravitational pull. I don't chase anything.
Yeah.
What I pay attention to is how I'm treating people.
Yeah.
Making sure that I'm giving them all of me when I'm in front of them, and just doing the right things. And I genuinely believe everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah, I agree.
Everything.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Can afford not to have a profitable employee or partner in business. It's just not possible.
Yeah, so I agree.
If you want to skill up and me and you can make money together, young man, believe it. You step in front of me with a good deal, I can't afford to care.
Yeah.